Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast.
Shouldn't you be looking into the
Want me to look there?
This has to stay in it too. You can't take this part out. You should be looking in to the camera. No, not my camera. Look into yours.
Hi.
No, this.
I know, it's right there.
When I see this podcast, you better not have edited this part out. This has to stay. This has to stay. So now
he's threatening me right now.
Yeah. So now go back. Mm-hmm. Welcome. Go ahead.
Okay, but you have to stop talking.
Is that even is that even possible?
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. This is part 2, talking with Tony Poole. We left off with the concept of necessary suffering and how that is a vital part of the recovery process. So that's where we're going to pick up, and then who knows where we're going to go.
Did you remember that, or you looked it up?
I remembered. I think it's really important. Necessary suffering, very important.
Why?
Because of contrast. Without contrast, without the light, you don't know the dark, vice versa. Without some suffering, without some...
Is it suffering?
Acute experience where you realize, oh, this is what's going on. I don't think that that moment of clarity comes. If everything's fine, everything's fine.
So, if I'm understanding what you're saying to me, sort of like... I don't know, in relationships, and we all have relationships, right? I was having a conversation with my therapist this morning, right, about this.
You have a therapist? Look at his eyes.
Are you playing with me right now?
No, I think it's good.
No, wait.
I'm a little jealous. I wish I had a therapist. I think it sounds great.
Hello, I'm right here. Damn, I'm in the room. Right? You didn't know I was seeing a therapist?
I do know. I know everything that's on your calendar.
Oh, so yes, smartass. I am seeing a therapist. And we were talking this morning about this. And so for me, it's all about relationships. But the one person that I talk to the most, the one person that I have the best relationship with is, well, me, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of coincides with my relationship with God, right? Because that's kind of the relationship I have. I should say that's the one, right? But oftentimes, as we go through life, as I go through life, sometimes that relationship falls by the wayside a little bit. And I always find that when that doesn't, right, he brings me to a place like, get back, come on back. Because if you don't include me, then it's not going to work. You might think it's going to work. And so what we talk about is, life is, it's okay when we're in a relationship with somebody else, whether it's a coworker. Everything is great when we're up here. Okay? But the mark, in my opinion, of a successful relationship, even if it's with ourselves, is how are we when we're down here? Mm. When things aren't so peachy and things are a little bit difficult and kind of edgy, right? Whether I'm in a relationship with my person, right? Whoever that person is, how am I behaving with that person when I'm not necessarily happy, right? But at the same time, I can use those valleys, right? Contrast, to make sure that, and I for me, I think it's important to stay out of the peaks, if I can, stay out of the valleys, and just keep as much of an even keel. And it's very difficult to do that. And it takes practice. If you ask, many people who's the greatest basketball player, they're going to tell you who they think. Obviously, it's Jordan. Hello, right? But other people might think whoever they think. But same thing with the golfer, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, whatever. Every one of these guys that are at the apex, they're at the top of their game. I watched an interview with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, right? Well, I think it was on Letterman, and they're talking about this. And Bird, top of his game, right? And if you ask Johnson, he'll tell you it's Bird and vice versa, but they both practice. a lot. But wait, why would you want to do that? You're a professional. You're at the top of your game. You're making millions, but yet they still practice. Well, we can practice ourselves on how to be a master of our own lives. And part of that is what you talked about, and that is, that adversity, that trial. For me, it's not so much, oh, dang, why does this keep happening to me? Have you ever said that? Everybody has. This keeps happening to me. Well, guess what, knucklehead? It keeps happening to me because I didn't get it the last time or the time before that. That's why it keeps happening. And until I learn, it's going to happen again. Right? So for me, it changed my perspective. A lot of this I got through therapy, but a lot of it I came to on my own as well, I think. Is there such a thing as an accident? I'm going to say no. Is there such a thing as a negative experience? I'm also going to say no. I mean, am I going to like it? Right? Did I like it? When I came home I got a new puppy. Cute, and you'll see it the next time I'm here. But I'm coming home, and I get home, and there's a snowstorm in Heber, right?
What a surprise.
I mean, this was... And so I know that if it's in Heber, if I drive up that mountain where I live, it's going to be wretched. I don't want to deal with it. Is that a negative, that I got to go get a hotel room? I mean, I don't know. How about a positive? I can go get a hotel room. There was a time in my life where going to get a $130 room would have been a problem. It would have stung, right? I'm grateful that I could go do that.
Contrast.
So, perspective, right? And it's the goal of Beecon Recovery to convey these types of perspectives based on my life's experiences. No, I am not a therapist. Don't play one on TV, right? Don't know anything about that. Well, I'm kind of your therapist, so I'm kidding. But no, I mean, I know a little bit about it because I work with them, right? And oftentimes, I'm not going to mention any names, but some of my therapists are telling me, you should be a therapist because I have life. I have life's experiences, and I have my trials, my errors, trial and error, right? And, oh, dang, last time when I touched that stove, I got a blister. Don't do that anymore. That one hurt. And oftentimes, it's not a blister on my hand from touching a stove. It's a blister on my heart from making a different, the same choice. Oh, why do I keep doing these things? Right? And at the end of the day, there's an easy button to hit. Right? I used to think that, I'm going to be happy when I meet her. She's going to make me happy. Or when I get that car.
Horizon living.
That's when I'm going to be happy. But I realized, I don't know when, people ask me sometimes, when did you figure this one out? I don't know. Before, right? My internal happiness is not dictated by external circumstances. My internal happiness is dictated by, internal, right here. And it's just, if you want to get real simple, which I do, I can boil it down to one word. Do you know what that word might be? It's love. Love is the answer for everything. My self-love for myself, which comes from knowing that my Father in heaven loves me immensely, and so much so that he sent his Son to take on everything. Jesus, that is. He took on everything. And I say that I am nothing without Jesus, and I'm everything because of him and through him.
So if you look at the concept of necessary suffering, what I would say is that Jesus would not be as significant as he is and has been for not only you, but millions of people who have been here, had he not gone through the ultimate suffering.
110.
So this is the value of necessary
But you know what? Here's the
suffering.
thing, though.
Otherwise, you wouldn't trust.
Even Jesus
Mm-hmm.
questioned.
Sure.
Now, of course, he questioned, in the Garden of Gethsemane. Listen, that suffering, he bled from every pore. What? Does that even... My puny brain cannot even comprehend the pain that he must have just... But he did it for me. And you. And all of us. And that's the message that we get to convey to everybody that comes in our presence at Beacon. You are loved. He does. He loves you so much. Right? He's never going to go away. He never has gone away, even though you think... A lot of the folks that come through Beacon's doors think, well, there is no God. Well, I understand that. Fact is, there was a time in my life where I didn't ever say there wasn't, but I dang sure didn't have some choice words to say to him. And I'm sure many of us have been there. But he loves me so much. He absorbed all that. Right? And I think there were times that he was like, I'm not really happy with you right now, my son. Dang. Right?
I had that experience this last weekend with my own son. I'm not really very happy with you right now. You take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And accept again.
Yeah.
And accept again. And accept again.
And isn't there some similarity between that relationship and that relationship?
Yeah.
I mean, those children, think sometimes they know better. Apparently this was something that was happening then. I don't think this was Jack.
This was Jack. Well, this was just, I wouldn't say that he was.
Okay, so just to put this into perspective.
He was sick.
I'm not saying that because you're sitting here, right? But that little kid.
Yeah.
That little kid, he's something.
I know.
Yeah, and his energy is just, right? Anyways, so I thought it was, but he's what is he? How old is he? 4?
He's 4. And it's an interesting parallel to draw because what I just said was he was sick. And we, in our addiction, are certainly sick.
But wait, hold on. Could you say that we could be sick without being in our addiction? Because,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that, I was having a conversation with someone and talking about therapy, and I think that everybody could use some therapy. We wander around life, seeing other people driving nice cars, living in nice houses, right? Pretty wives or whatever, from, whatever perspective you're going to be looking at this from. Oh, they're happy. Really? How do you know? Whatever they're got going on. Or somebody pulls out in front of me. Do I have a road rage, or do I say maybe they're in a hurry? Maybe they're going to the emergency room because, somebody's about to die.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, stay in my own lane. Don't worry about what's happened in the past, because I can't control what already happened. And get your ass out of the future, because you can't control that either. Stay right here, in this moment, present, right here, right now. But that takes practice. That's hard to do. It really is. Right? But I'm practicing, and I teach people, yes, I'm going to eventually take a drink of this coffee. Yeah. But, yeah, life is just a life. I am a lifelong pupil, right, of highness. Some people would call it raising our vibration. We all have a vibration, a frequency, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I want to raise mine. And every day that I wake up, it's an opportunity to do just that. Raise my frequency. Well, many people, myself included, believe that Jesus, there's a resounding, there's going to be a lot of redundancy with me and him, because once again, without him, I am absolutely nothing. And he is the ultimate example of how to live our lives, right? Which is why he came here, to show us, okay, here's the benchmark. right? And how you are to live your life. But we're always going to fall short,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the fun part, right, is that he's going to make up the difference. There's a book called Believing Christ. Okay, forgot the author. But in the book, the author talks about, or someone, I think it's the author, his son wants to buy a bicycle. And so they go to the piggy bank, and and there's the price for the bike. And then the child pours all the coins out, and it's not enough to buy the bike. And I'm sure Dad knew this going in. But then Dad makes up the difference so the kid can get the bike, his son. That's how our Savior is. And that's why he brought the example up. We're always going to fall. We're never going to have enough money to buy the bike. Ever. But he's always, time and time again, he's going to make up the difference. It's never going to stop. He's never going to run out of coins to make up the difference to buy the bike. It's never going to happen. And that love, his love cup runneth over, and we can suck from that if we want his light. There's the ultimate beacon of light, and that is Jesus, right? And we can draw on that love and that light, and we can add it and make it a part of us. And that's where life gets, that's the easy button, right? But we make it so difficult. I'm not excluding myself from the we. I am a part of that, right? But it doesn't have to be.
So how do you reckon with believing in Jesus to the depth that you do and religion?
I'm not digging religion these days. Although I did go, when I went to pick up the puppy, I went to a non-denominational church, right?
Was it a Christian church?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm all about Christ, so I'm not messing with anything that doesn't have anything to do with Christ. Yeah. I've never been to was a first for me, and I was walking in wide-eyed. I mean, they got a band up on the stage. They're, with drums and a saxophone in church. They even had a coffee bar in the church. Like, what? But I'm trying to be open. Actually, I was being open. And so after we got through all the songs, I listened to this guy talking. And I'll be darned if he didn't tell the truth. I'll be darned if his truth didn't resonate with mine. Reading right out, I don't think it was a King James version, doesn't matter. I was trying to follow along with my scriptures when he's reading out of the Bible. But he told the truth. It was kind of fun for me, right?
And is this like a newer church, would you say?
You know what? I don't think so. I think it's been there for a minute.
But it's got to be newer than, for example, the Mormon church or the Catholic church.
Oh, in that regard, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that it's, yes, by far, yeah.
So do you think there's an evolution of how people are understanding Jesus Christ?
Yeah. I think, so I have a friend, right, a close friend, who went to a particular religion, same one I went to. I don't know. I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I don't go to any particular religion anymore. But this woman, she did some research with people that had where they've died, right? And then they've gone when they've died, and in their world, in their perception, their experience, they went and got in front of Jesus or what they perceived to be Jesus and asked, which one of these religions is the real one, right?
Same question Joseph Smith asked. That's interesting.
Well, it is the same question Joseph Smith asked. The only difference is Joseph Smith got his answer. These people got a different answer, and the answer that they got was, and ironically enough, from what I'm able to understand, these people were all a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. But these people didn't get to go to the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints to get your answer. The answer was, whatever church brings you closer to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, religion, faith, right? And to me, there's a difference. And a lot of people associate, their faith with their religion. I won't do that. My faith comes from what I know to be the truth. God hears my prayers. God answers my prayers, and I get to God only through Jesus Christ. He's like the conduit. He's a pathway. I can't get to God, and God can't get to me from my understanding. And everybody's got their own deal, but this is me. Everything flows in and through Jesus Christ, and everything is because of Jesus Christ. If Jesus Christ doesn't do what he does and make that suffering that you had talked about earlier, then I'm not here. I'm not. So, no. For me, it's not religion, it's faith. Okay? Faith.
Well, what do you think was the value of that church that you went to?
Well, for the people that were in that church, and at that time, myself included, we got to sit and listen to what this man had to say.
Yeah.
And he gave some examples of things in his own life with his children and I don't remember what he was talking about, but I remember listening to him. People that were listening to him that come to his church every single Sunday, right? They probably got something similar to what I got, which is like, you know what? I can relate to what you just said to me. Mm-hmm. I believe what you're reading to me out of that Bible as the truth, and I can use it to strengthen and enhance my own belief, to enhance that relationship with my God, right? Because I say my God because everybody's is different. And I say this to people at Beecon, right? I don't care. I mean, I refer to him, my God, as my Father in heaven. Because, well, he is my Father, and wherever heaven is, that's where he is. So, but, people can say, third eye, chakra, the universe, deity, right? Whatever. You got to go to somewhere, in my opinion, that's greater than yourself. And then gravitate towards that, right? And draw on that. And go to that every single minute of every day if you can.
Well, yeah, when I was taking the deep breaths when Jack was sick and
Yeah.
I was lacking in patience,
Yeah.
that's where I was going. I was going to that place.
And who was it? Joe on our last podcast? Mm-hmm. Remember the story?
Joe Clay.
Joe Clay.
Yeah, he's great.
Oh my gosh. Really? Remember what he was talking about when he was stuck in his addiction when I think they just got some Subutex or Suboxone, something, one of those two. Yeah. And they were in the shower. Mm-hmm. And she started to pray. And I asked him, what happened? And he said that he got calm. Mm-hmm. Remember?
Yeah.
God hears us.
So, yes, and I would say we don't pray unless there is some element of, you could call it suffering, contrast.
Yeah.
And one thing that I have been learning, and I think it's shown with what you're doing at Beecon Recovery, is at first we pray because we're concerned with our own suffering. Yeah. And as we mature and increase in awareness about what is going on here, it's not only my own suffering that prompts me to pray, it's my awareness and the reality of the suffering of others. So well, I pray for, at first I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable. Like, please help me. Yeah. And then it's, oh my gosh, and so are you, and so are you. Yeah. The suffering that is going on. And then I pray for that as well. Yeah.
I want to share a story.
Yeah.
We teach people about prayer at Beecon. Mm-hmm. And I harp on it, right? So one day, and I may have shared this story before, and if I have, we're going to hear it again, right? I got a young lady coming into my office, and this is back when I was actually running Beecon, right, day to day.
When you were hanging out there all day?
Yeah.
And you weren't like running around in your nice suits and your Lexus going to lunch and stuff?
Really? Wow.
I just want everyone to know how great your life is.
Oh my gosh. Oh. Yeah, because I got no worries at all, everybody.
Nope, he just got a puppy.
Yeah, there's nothing going on. I have no need to practice because things are just whatever. So this young lady comes into my office and she wants one of my staff to go with her to her adult probation. Now, the adult probation, these are the guys with guns and badges and handcuffs. They can take you to jail, and often do. She thinks because of whatever mistakes, there's one for you, that she has made, choices that she's made, because that's what they were, that she's going to get arrested. And she wants one of my staff members to go with her. Now, we don't ever do that, right? That never happens. We never let anybody go. If I did that, then we never get anything done. But for some beautiful reason, I'm getting the download. I call them downloads. The feeling, let her take a staff with her. So she goes. And now she's sitting in front of the probation officer. And the visualization I get is he's sitting in front of her. So she could be you and I'm him. And he's got a big window to the right of where he's sitting. And so he says to her, when she sits down, so-and-so, I think I'm going to have to arrest you today. Now, I have been telling these people, he will hear your prayers. And I segregate this. I mean, sometimes, in the evenings, even in the winter, I sleep with my window open. And so sometimes if I forget to say my prayers and I'm laying in my warm bed, I'm like, do I roll out of bed? And it's not really the most heartfelt of prayers because I'm cold and I want to go back to bed where it's warm, right? There's that prayer. We'll call that prayer A. Now let's go to prayer B. Once again, it's cold. I'm on the freeway. My car, I don't have any money. Not driving a Lexus, thank you, right? I'm driving a beater, and I have. This has actually happened to me. The light comes on. My car stops. It's dusk. Everybody's zipping by me. There's slush on the road. And now I'm on the side of the freeway. Now I'm really scared. My heart's thumping. That's prayer B. That's a different prayer than prayer A, where I'm rolling out of bed. I mean, you know what I mean? Now you get the difference. So when he turned, I'm going to arrest you. The instant he turns, she's doing a prayer B. Her heart's thumping. Because Tony's been telling her, he really does hear your prayers. It really does work. I promise. So the way she described it to me, he turned. It's about 15 seconds. He's just, well, what do you think is happening when he's turned? While she's talking to God, God is talking to him. It's like, dink, dink. Right? So 15 or so seconds goes by. He turns back and says, but I'm not going to. Now, when that happens, she loses her marbles in gratitude. And, oh my gosh, he really does hear and he really does answer. And there it is. When you offer a prayer, keep in mind when the prayer is answered. I oftentimes record those prayers. They're up here as well. And so she recognized. Now she's in my office, right? With tears the following day, right? It was just, she knew. So I say to her, would you mind sharing your testimony? She says to me, what is that? I said, well, would you mind going into the group room and sharing, because it's one thing to hear it from the owner.
Right.
It's another thing to hear it from one of y'all. I mean, because you're one of them,
yeah.
Right? Just tell them what you experienced. Tell them your truth. You're going to testify. And she said, absolutely. That's magic for me, right? She put what I said to the test. Because I tell people, you can pray. You don't have to necessarily be waiting for, prayer A or prayer B, right? You can just think it. You could be driving down the road, right? Here's one for you. I shared the story about the folks jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Remember about the guy?
Yeah.
Okay. I think as I read the article, 40-something out of the 600 at that time, people they didn't have success. Some of those people that jumped off that Golden Gate Bridge and didn't, in fact, die, they prayed on the way down. as they've jumped and they're free falling, I want to do over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to actually die. Well, they didn't. Could it be that he answered their prayer that quick? And the answer is resoundingly, from my perspective, yes.
It's interesting listening to these stories through the lens of necessary suffering, and you've done such a wonderful job of showing the contrast. I feel like if had she not been in such an intense moment in her life, this woman who prayed,
that's it.
The prayer would not have.
Nope.
It would not have been
100%.
as wholehearted as it was.
Yes.
Same
She
with the
had
people
to be,
from the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes. She had to be in the depths of despair.
And fear. Yeah, I bet she was scared.
Our Savior,
Mm-hmm.
when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, had to be in the depths of despair.
Mm-hmm.
So those, as you started this, trials, those moments are crucial to our progression,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that is part of what is so beautiful about my own story of addiction and so many others is that we don't know when we begin the journey,
Nope.
which is everything, all of your suffering is your way to God and to your own self, to your spirit, to your heart. It's so valuable. And so I think one of the things I've always loved about recovery and being in that population is that we do have such a beautiful contrast because we have gone to those darkest of places and we understand the value and we get to use that.
Yeah, it's almost like if anybody's ever had a cold shower, especially when it hits your torso and whatnot. I mean, it's not comfortable at all.
Yeah.
Versus a really nice, warm, where you don't want to stop the shower. Wouldn't hurt if it's snowing outside like it is now, but you're inside you're in your own little world. It's nice and warm, but that cold shower, you really can't appreciate the warm one unless you've had the cold one. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can still appreciate it, but not almost like sometimes when I'm knuckleheadish the way where I live, don't make the mistake of doing your laundry when you're taking a shower, Tony. Hello, right? Because when you do, well, guess what? Something's going to happen on that washer, right? That's going to make this shower experience not as pleasurable. But it's a real quick contrast. And so for me, I can experience that in real time, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we have to have that cold shower to really understand and appreciate the sheer, for me, delight and pleasure of having a nice warm shower.
So in what ways do you feel like at Beecon you help people see that, help people learn how to value that suffering?
So by letting them know we've been there. Mm. I mean, my dad used to say to me, and I, stealing his thunder, I suppose, when he would tell me, son, the bridges you're crossing right now, I actually helped build, right? So when I talk with these people, when my staff, that's why, I think 70 or so percentage of our folks are in recovery. Mm-hmm. Right on from the owner, clinical director. I mean, a lot of my staff is in recovery because we can say we've been there and we understand exactly what you're experiencing. We know what it's like, right? Like the shark in Finding Nemo that I described last podcast, right? We know what it's like. And in varying degrees, we don't lose our marbles the way we once did, the way you currently are. But there's still a draw, right? In some deep recesses of my brain, okay, of wanting to go and use again. Mm-hmm. I won't, but it's kind of a trickle, right? If that makes any sense. Now, I don't want to run out of time, right?
Oh yeah.
So I just want to. We do, yeah. So I want to touch base, right, on. I was in a court yesterday talking to a judge, right? And no, I wasn't being arrested. So, because we take a lot of our clients, patients, from the court system. Beecon Recovery, I think we're primarily Medicaid, and we're taking most of our folks from the courts. I want the folks that nobody else wants. I want the Medicaid folks. So I'm in talking to this judge, and we just came up with our numbers for our recidivism rate. I said it like that because it's kind of a hard word to say. I had to practice saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, recidivism is the word that is associated with the rate in which people are relapsing. Okay? And now, after what I just said, this is when things get really murky. I don't have to go far other than to say that recidivism is a rate in which people are relapsing. After that, it's like, and that's what I told the judge yesterday, it's like the Wild Wild West. The entire time I've been in treatment, that I'm doing this with Beecon Recovery since I think it's February 2019, I have not had one state or federal agency asking me, Tony, what are your numbers? And for me, that is an absolute travesty. What I would want to have happen, in the state of Utah at least, is if somebody like me is going to have a facility, then I better bloody well be able to describe and give somebody some level of what is my success or my failure rate. Why isn't anybody asking anybody this? Because if you go look up recidivism, and I'll say it again, if somebody that's hearing this podcast wants to get in touch with me and say, Tony, you stand corrected, I'm almost positive you will not be able to. And when I say what I'm talking about is, what is the recidivism rate for people that are with reference to drugs and alcohol? I'm going to suggest that is a virtually impossible number to calculate. First of all, my position, and once again, you can correct me if you like, that the vast majority of the individuals that are hooked on, addicted to drugs and or alcohol, they don't even get into treatment. Doesn't even exist. And how many of those folks end up dying? Where's that number tracked? In some hospital, cause of death, drug overdose? Well, are we tapping into that database?
Well, they have to be run through a system of some sort to be able to be.
They have to be,
tracked.
but as far as I know, okay, if we went just to that would be something that'll have somebody look up. Go to the cause of deaths out there and see if we can at least get a recidivism for those folks that died from a drug or alcohol overdose, right? But what about the folks that never went into treatment, that didn't die?
Yeah, or what about the people who end their life in some other way as a result of addiction? Are you looking at that? Do you care?
Of course.
Does that go into it?
But now you're once again, I said this is where things get really murky.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Because now let's go off into the people. Okay, let's see if we can figure out this. Let's go this way. Let's talk about the people that actually did go into treatment. Whether it's, and we won't use detox. That doesn't count because that's just, detox. Let's go to residential or outpatient. Just for the folks out there that don't know what this means, residential means they go and live there, usually for 60 to 90 days, sometimes 120, but very rarely. Or outpatient, which is what we do. Now, in the outpatient realm, and what we do in outpatient, meaning they come to my facility or any one of our facilities, they stay for X amount of time, and then they go home, right? Here's a travesty.
You're saying during the day, so they spend time during the day, and then they go home in the evening.
Yeah, there are 3 different classes we offer. One is from 9 to 1. The other is from 12 to 4. Actually, we just changed that. We just bumped, because Medicaid says you should do outpatient for 4 to 6 hours. We just bumped ours to 5, but we have 3 different times, okay, that people come in. Mm-hmm. Whatever time they come in, because they have jobs, and we did this so people can go and not have to get treatment and then lose their jobs, which makes things even worse, okay?
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, not my idea. I had somebody tell me yesterday, oh my gosh, Tony, you're so smart. That was brilliant, genius, that idea that you had. And I get to tell these people all the time, yeah. There was a time in my life my ego would have been, goody for me. Look at me, I'm all wonderful. But no, these are not my ideas. I cannot take credit for these brilliant ideas. You ever had a good idea? Oh, I had a great idea. No, you didn't. You did not have a good idea. If it was a good one, it wasn't yours. It was his. It just came to you. So, where were we? What was I talking about?
Judge.
So I'm telling the judge, nobody's asked me what my numbers are. What? Where's the accountability? You got this. So I think the state of Utah, if anybody from the state of Utah is hearing this, how about you guys make some laws that actually work? If somebody like me is going to have a facility, I don't care if it's a residential or an outpatient, hold me accountable. Really. Let's figure out. So what you're telling me, and because what's happening right now is the only time we, owners of facilities that I'm aware of, for the most part, have anything to do with the people that are in our programs, are when they're in our programs. But what happens to them when they leave our program? Where do they go? What are they doing? We don't know. Well, most of us don't. Some of us actually do.
So how far back do you go?
Patient number 1, Debbie Valdez. She's going to be on a podcast, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? She doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be because, she's going to. Yeah, from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, did you make it? Are you still making it? How are you? You know, we talked about this. We talked about me going out Christmas Eve because I know you're going to be home. We had 8 people we couldn't get a hold of. And our recidivism rate currently is at, I think, would we say 23%,
mm-hmm.
meaning 23%, meaning what, 23 minus 100, what does that get you?
77.
77? So we have 77% of the folks that have graduated from our program and are currently in our program that are not using and that haven't used.
Yeah.
I got 4 people that I still am trying to get a hold of. My hope is that we're going to get that down to below 20. But on Christmas Eve, I started knocking, because I had 8 people I couldn't get a hold of. My staff, we can't get them to answer the phone. They won't return emails. So I went knocking on these doors. And that was a great experience for me. I mean, it was Christmas Eve, and I really wanted to go home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Been a long day, and I had to wait till the end of the day, sort of, just to make sure that all their Christmas stuff's done and they're home, you know, doing, oh, no way. Yeah, it was Christmas Eve, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Christmas Eve. And I had it was such a fun experience, right? To exchange that energy between these people. I care. And they know that I care, and they care about me. And so just because you have left Beecon Recovery doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to stay in touch with you. And why can't you other facilities do the same thing? Was it going to cost you that much money?
Well,
to pay somebody to pick up the phone?
I think it does. I mean,
crying out loud, why?
If you consider time as money, which many people do, it does take time. It takes time to keep track of these people. And I've been, like I've said, in this community for a long time.
Yeah.
And I have seen many facilities make attempts at cultivating an alumni where the people who have gone through the program will stick around, and it is hard to do. It's hard for many. It's for many reasons. I think COVID made it harder.
Sure.
Like when COVID happened, people were less likely to gather. I mean, I would say this is one strong point of Alcoholics Anonymous and why it's been so helpful over the last. It's coming up on almost 100 years, and that is that those who have
1938.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those who have been graced with a second chance at life, try to share that with other people. And I think that that doesn't have to be exclusive to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Absolutely not.
I think the places I've seen most successful, that's part of it. Like
if I understand the Alcoholics Anonymous model, they have their sponsors, right?
Uh-huh.
So if I am in Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, and I have a sponsor, okay, it's up to me when I have a problem, if I'm understanding this correctly, to reach out to my sponsor. Now, there are a lot of good sponsors that are friends with their people, their sponsees, that they will reach out to, but I think the burden lies on the person that has a sponsor. At Beecon Recovery, we are not doing this way. Okay, at Beecon Recovery, yeah, sure. Do we want you to reach out to us? And some of the people call me on my cell phone. Hey, man, how you doing? Hey, it's so good to hear from you. But no, it's up to us at Beecon. And okay, if there's a fee associated, I mean, can you put a price tag on somebody's life? How is it that, do I only care about these people when they're in treatment at Beecon Recovery?
It's really hard to care about everybody.
No, it's not.
It takes time.
So, I don't, okay. So?
Well, imagine if Beecon were
I can't wait.
Much larger.
I can't wait till we're much larger.
Much larger.
I cannot wait.
And you have 100. All I'm saying is,
and then
you have 8 people on. Just for example, okay.
Yeah.
You have, and I'm not saying that you don't care. All I'm saying is, as it grows, it gets harder. You have 8 people on Christmas Eve. Say that number is times 10. So all of a sudden, then you have 80 people on Christmas Eve that you have to go out and you have to find them and you have to knock on their door. Like, you literally don't have enough hours in Christmas Eve to be able to do that. So I think that's part of the problem.
I read it. No. See, that's what you're saying is part of the problem. That is a problem. That's a problem. That's what bugs me.
The perception.
No. What you're saying is, it is a problem for these people, and that's the part that bugs me. I don't care. Then, well, I don't know. Hire somebody. Oh, you ever heard of seasonal work? Hey, it's going to cost you a little bit more money, but can you put a price tag on somebody's life? I don't think so. So I'm going to suggest to you that if it happens, right, that we have more people, which I cannot wait when that happens, then it just takes more time. And we get to, that's okay. It's okay. Does that mean then, that, I don't know. I mean, what if we took the money that insurance companies are giving us and do something fun, like we'll spend it on them? And you know what? The people that are currently in treatment, they get to know that the monies we're getting from their insurance companies, and in our case, it primarily is Medicaid, and we have some Medicare folks as well, that they get to know that we're taking part of that money that we're making from them getting in treatment, and we're spending it on somebody that went through this place before they did.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
I think you should tell them that. I think that's great.
They know that.
They do.
They do.
Good.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Well, at least they did when I was there. I mean, things change when you're not there, right?
Yeah.
I'm realizing these things, but this is the model.
Is that fairly new for you not to be there a lot?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20. So it was 19, 20, 21, 22. So about for 4 years, right? I was there for about 14 to 16 hours a day.
I was talking with somebody about you today, and I described you as somebody who was a boots on the ground guy, and that's very admirable. You will take your. I tell people, if you want to be successful, take your body there and have the experience. Like, go there, and I think that's something that you have seemingly endless energy to go there and do the thing, whatever the thing is, and that's
oh my gosh,
it's
seemingly
really beautiful.
endless energy.
Yeah.
Ugh, well, let me just tell you, when I get done at the end of the day, oh my gosh, I'm tired. I'm tired at the end of every day. I really am. And it used to be I could go out when I was raised for a portion of my teenage life on a farm, and I could go out and work the farm. I'd come in, take a shower, and within minutes, I'm right as rain.
Yeah.
Right? But this emotional roller coaster that I get on sometimes, it's dang.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was chosen to do this. Right? So I want to get back to the recidivism real quick. How my recidivism, Beecon's recidivism, is real at 23% because we know. Once a quarter, we send these people a little questionnaire. I think it's like, you've seen it. It's like 8 to 10 questions. It takes you, 30 seconds at the most. I'll send you a $25 gift card from any one of several places. Most people are just going with the standard Walmart. And I know it's only $25, but still, it takes you, 10, 20 seconds to answer this thing. And I'll send you a gift card. And yes, That does cost money. And yes, I know that when I have thousands of people, I'm going to be spending thousands of dollars on these gift cards. And your point is?
My point is people would question whether or not that's valuable.
Well, you know what? That's good for them. And they can continue to have no data at all by questioning that, because that's what's happening. They have zero data and they're not even trying. They're not even doing anything. And listen, if somebody come up to me and say, hey, Tony, I've got a better idea for you to track the folks that have, there was another place out there that I think was making people come in and do UAs. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go in your honor, right? And a lot of times we can tell. Obviously, if somebody's been in jail, there's a good chance they've relapsed. So, recidivism. When we look at the number, speaking of jail, my understanding is when we're looking at these numbers, I think Utah's 46 and the national is 44, or it might be reversed. But when we look at those numbers, that's for people that are getting reincarcerated.
Right. Well,
Right?
and this is something that you and I have talked about before.
Yes.
I feel like what you're asking and pushing to do is to expand the definition of recidivism, is because it is usually goes hand in hand.
Not to expand. No. Look, there can be different types of recidivism, right? I don't want to expand recidivism. I want to include, if we can, drug and alcohol addiction. When somebody relapses on drugs or alcohol, that should be included. And why it's not is an absolute travesty. And the reason it's not is because people like me don't want to spend the money and the time to figure out what's going on with the folks that graduated their programs.
Well, what I would say is that another reason why is that for many people and for our culture, drug use and incarceration go hand in hand. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily true.
Oh, it is.
Wait,
No.
let me finish that.
Yeah.
Because this is part of the underlying stigma that goes along with drugs and their use and all of that, is that drug addicts are criminals. And so many people are content with that definition.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm not saying that like you're expanding the technical definition of what recidivism is, but what I am saying is, from what I can tell, and even when I put it into ChatGPT, recidivism is very closely linked to incarceration. Well,
it is linked to incarceration, and that's my problem. So we're saying the same things, but so for me, right? And nobody knows. I was talking to my clinical director about this yesterday, right? Looking at what the number is, he wants to say that 100% of the people that are getting reincarcerated, drugs were involved. But I'm going to give this the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say 90%. And which is, I think, is a good. I mean, once again, if somebody wants to give me a different number, I'll be more than happy to hear it. But it's a vast majority of the individuals that are getting reincarcerated, drugs are involved. Okay?
Sure.
So that takes my 23%, which I think is a dismal number, and it's not a bad number to have. And I think it's going to go down when I get a hold of these other four people, right? So I want to make sure that we understand. I think, from my perspective, people like me, if I'm going to go get a license to be able to do this, so my therapists have their license, my businesses, we have a separate license, which, by the way, is contingent upon their licensures, nonetheless, right? I think in order for, just like, those guys, my master's level clinicians that have a license to practice what they're doing, I also have my license. I think part of my licensure, I should have in place in my policies and procedures in some capacity, what does my aftercare look like? And it needs to be something along the lines of, I need to make sure, at least for a period of time, 3 years, 5 years, pick a number. With us, I'm hoping we're shooting for a lifetime. I'm not going to say that after 5 years, I'm going to stop contacting you, because I'm not going to stop contacting you after 5 years. Okay? Now, maybe the frequency with which we contact people gets broadened to a longer period of time in between visits, right? We'll play with that. But right now, I think we're doing when somebody graduates for the first 3 months, they're getting a visit once a month. And the last time we talked about this, it's going to then go from once a month for the first 3 months to once a quarter, right? We've opened up a chat for all the alum and the people that are currently in. It's only for us, okay? that if somebody's having a problem, it doesn't matter who you are, you can go in there, and nobody else is seeing this. It's just us. We're the only ones seeing this.
Yeah.
Okay? And that way we can support each other in that regard. But yes, we are going to continue to reach out to somebody for the rest of their life. And I posted this in numerous places. Lifetime aftercare program. I don't think people quite comprehend what that means. What that means is, I'm not going to stop loving you because you're not in my treatment facility. I'm not. So we have a lifetime aftercare program, and our recidivism number, it's as accurate as the people that we're talking to that are telling the truth. But at the same time, we've been doing this long enough. You know when somebody isn't using. You can tell by the way they talk. You can tell by the interactions you have with them. Now, I'm not going to make people give me UAs. I'm going to go on their word. And what we can, sometimes we have some suspicions when we talk to somebody, and that person goes in the negative column, right? Mm-hmm. But we are contacting people, and we will do so. So I want to make sure. And so we're going to actually add this number to the website. And then on the website, right now, I think currently when you look up the word on the website and it says recidivism, I'm hoping that by the time somebody sees this podcast, mm-hmm. instead of that verbiage that they can read, they're going to hear me or see me talk about everything we just talked about. You can edit everything we just did and use that, right? And it doesn't matter if it's going to be a 3 or 4 minute explanation, right? Our recidivism number, and when you look at the national so when you see question marks by the Utah average and the national average, it's going to be indicative of the fact that we don't know what those numbers are, and based on what we're talking about here, nobody knows what those numbers are. I'm going to suggest it's 80 to 90% people that are stopping drugs that they relapse. Mm. That's the recidivism that we're using for drug and alcohol addiction recovery. Somebody that stopped and then they relapsed. If they've relapsed, that's included in our 23% failure. If they haven't, it's included in our 70% success. So I'm going to suggest to you, and I'm not a braggadocious kind of guy, but I do tell the truth. The numbers are completely flipped. Their success is my failure, and my failure is it's because I think that it's upwards of 70 to 80% or 90% people are relapsing off drugs. But when they graduate this program, they aren't relapsing. And I can prove those numbers by the fact that we are spending the time and the money. Yeah, $25 gift cards, it adds up.
Yeah.
But these people are important, and they don't stop being important because they've left our facility. What planet is that? What? Why did I even do this in the first place? What's the purpose?
So what I hear when you're speaking about recidivism is a lot of, I hear you challenging what's going on. I hear some questions.
Yeah.
And so what I would love to invite the listeners of this podcast to do is, if they have insight about recidivism, what's going on there, to contact you.
They can contact, there's an email. It's a Beecon email. And maybe I'm supposed to know this, right? I don't know what it is. It's Beecon something. But you're going to put some verbiage.
Sure, yeah.
On the bottom of this thing,
mm-hmm.
like it'll be running across the bottom of the screen or something.
Mm-hmm.
For any comments, go to this email address.
Yeah.
And they can type in.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or they can comment on the video. They can comment on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few places that they can comment. But
and you know what?
We should probably make it easier for them to argue with you if you really want them to argue with you.
I don't.
Or
educate me.
Yes, educate.
Yeah, I don't want them to argue. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be hard pressed for somebody to convince me that recidivism for drug and alcohol addiction is monitored anywhere. And I say this out of experience. That's what I told this judge yesterday. I have not we've got a questionnaire that comes from SAMHSA, I think. That's an acronym that I don't know what it's for, but it's a questionnaire that they send to me. I think it's once a year, and it's an extensive thing. I go, yes, it's like answer A, B, C, or D, or whatever, or yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
not one of those questions is asking me what my level of success is from the people that have graduated from my program. So I've been doing this, once again, not for very long. There's other facilities that have been doing it much longer than me. But since I've been doing it since February of 2019, I have not had one person verbally ask me when my licensure comes out once a year to make sure that I'm on the up and up. Oh, and by the way, last time she came out, I had 0 hits. That's the first time ever for her. Right? They always find stuff.
0 non-compliance. I remember.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal. You were there when she was there, right?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good day.
Yeah.
It was. I kind of set it up. I did. I kind of let her know, look, we're going for a 0 compliance today. But we really, she's not. She's very good at her job.
Yeah.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
And I used to think those licensors were out to get us, and they're not. They're out to make sure we're doing things.
She's holding you accountable, just like you want.
That's right.
That's
and I love it.
Good.
It wasn't like that in the beginning, though. Right?
Yeah, sure.
They were like enemy, but no. Yeah, I mean, I wish that we had something in place where somebody was asking us, what are your numbers?
That's really interesting. So I studied education in college, and one of the things that they taught me was if you do not hold a standard for your students, if you do not show your student, this is what I believe that you can achieve. If there is no standard
and there is none.
And there are many schools, like maybe
it just blows me away,
that are lower in performance. Like if they don't expect anything of their students, then the students think, oh, well, this isn't expected, and we all stay right down here.
Don't you think it's bizarre that nobody's asking people like I do?
The reason I think that people don't ask is they don't expect people to stay sober. That's why I think it's that way.
Yeah, but I mean, wait. I get what you're saying to me, but that's bullshit. Because you're running around saying we need to fight this thing and drugs and we're mouthing the words.
Right.
Why aren't people like me? It'll probably never happen, but it would be wonderful if the state of Utah would get off their ass and say, hey, you know what? We're going to hold you guys accountable, present company included, and give us some sort of if you want to do a facility, then you got to be prepared financially and show to us as part of your licensing that you're going to follow up with these people for at least, 3 years, something.
Yeah.
Anything. Right now, there is nothing. And that's why I told this judge, it's like the Wild, Wild West.
Yeah,
people who are like me are out there just doing this, and there is 0 accountability with reference to what they're doing. All they can do is, when we write our policies and our procedures, they're ours. Everybody's are different. They have to be approved. I'm going to suggest that in those, we have to have some level of accountability for the success or the fact. And look, if you've got a 0, in other words, 100% of the people that are in your facility aren't successful after a certain period of time, well, then we get to look at what you're doing, because whatever you're doing is actually doing more harm. Mm-hmm. It's anything.
Interesting.
But from my knowledge, once again, if you want to find something that is out there, but from my knowledge, there is 0 accountability for people that have facilities, at least for the outpatient realm. I'm not in residential, but I'm pretty sure that theirs is no different than ours.
Well, in residential, they don't have, there is the potential for relapse, but it's not nearly what it is with outpatient because, they're there keeping track of them, so it's different.
Which is why I'm not a fan of residential, because there's no ability for them to go out and practice, here's that word again, what they're being taught.
Yeah.
Look, there's a place for residential. I just think outpatient is more effective.
Yeah.
Well, since I've got the best numbers in the country that I'm aware of, I don't think that. And the reason I can say that is because, once again, there are very few. I don't know of any other facilities that are tracking their folks the way we are.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So coming up on this topic, we have some former Beecon Recovery patients who are going to come and tell their stories of success. I think that...
And failures.
Sure, yeah.
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 Yeah. But I think that this illumination that you are offering right now about recidivism and what it is and who's keeping track.
We're going to see it in real time.
And who cares? Yeah, I think it's important. And I really want to encourage anyone who's listening to reach out to us and educate us, please, because this is something that clearly you
I would
care about.
love to have some of my current folks, but I there's some HIPAA things.
Sure.
Right? That even if I get their consent, I can't have them on. However, I can have some of the folks with their schedules that have graduated.
Yeah.
And they're very eager
Good.
to share their stories because they all have the same desire. If just like I'm doing this right now, if anything that you and I are talking, that's why we're doing this podcast. If anything that we say can help a person that's stuck in their addiction, a mother, a father, a husband, or anything to give them the information that they need to get their loved one or themselves to learn how to stay stopped, then that's the same reason that these folks that have graduated, because they do want to give back. And if it's just giving their time, and plus people like to share their stories.
Of course, yeah.
And some of these stories are just, the first guy, his name is Brett, that I knocked on New Year's Eve. He was my first one, so I was a little bit nervous. I mean, how's this going to happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Didn't you say you're a little bit worried about me as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, dang. I knocked on his door and, oh my gosh, it was so much, his face lit up, right? He leaped out and hugged me. I mean, told me how this person committed suicide and this person committed suicide and it should have drove him to the bottle and it didn't. And when I first met him, he was either going through, if I recall, or had just gone through a divorce because his wife had it with his alcoholism. He was just a hot mess. He isn't. He's remarried, right? I remember him telling me while he was in treatment about this woman he works with, that he really liked her, and she's this and then. And I'm like, did you marry that girl? And he said, yes. And I got to meet her, right? I mean, it was just so much fun.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And it's fun to know that he's staying clean.
Yeah.
Even through somebody committed suicide, somebody very close to him, times two. If I got an excuse to go out and dip my, hand in the drink in the bottle again, I mean, that would be it. But he didn't. Because he loves himself enough to not do that. And there it is, self-love. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And so we will have them on. We're going to have, I think we're going to take Harvey. I think we talked about taking Harvey up to Beecon.
Yeah.
And then they're going to come in and they're going to do, initially I was going to do 15-minute, and I'm like, no, their stories are too valuable. We're just going to do 1 hour segments. We're just going to have them back to back.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, just for you all who are listening, I'm not going to change clothes every time. I'm just going to have, because we're going to do it like Sunday, Tuesday. These are going to be every Tuesday. We're going to give a new one.
Okay.
And then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll say who the next person is going to be and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
All right.
Well, thank you for opening up this topic of recidivism. And I know it's something you care about a lot.
I do.
And
I want other people to care.
Yeah.
Without mouthing the words, I want other people to actually care.
Yeah.
I do. Why can't... What, isn't it important? Well, hold on. It's important.
Okay.
I'm not asking.
Yeah.
I'm bloody well saying this is important. We need to figure out how come we aren't making this like important when they leave your facility.
Yeah.
Is it possible that some of you folks out there are hoping that they come back? Well,
That's a
here's
good
one for you.
question.
What if they don't come back? What if they end up taking a nice long dirt nap? Because that's happening too,
Sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it needs to. It's important, and it needs to be important to everybody. So we'll see.
We will see.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Tony.